Most people have a lot of fear and misunderstanding with the foreclosure process. Whether you're a real estate professional trying to understand the process, or you're someone who has fallen behind on payments and doesn't know what to do next, this video is for you. We're gonna walk you through everything, step by step, from the first missed payment all the way to what happens after an auction, so stick with us. By the end, you'll know the exact timeline and what your rights are. You'll also learn what options you have before things get serious. And later in this video, we'll show you the exact point where it becomes almost impossible to stop the process and how to avoid getting there in the first place. Okay, let's start with what foreclosure actually means. Foreclosure isn't when you miss a payment. It's when you have been given the notice of default, and it's when your lender starts the legal process to take back the home. And all of this because the loan hasn't been paid on time. In Washington State, most foreclosures are non-judicial. That means they don't happen in the courtroom. They follow a process laid out in our state law called the Deed of Trust Act. The company that handles the process is called the trustee. They're the ones who send the notices and eventually conduct the auction. But here's the good news. Missing payments doesn't automatically mean that you're going to go into foreclosure. You're officially in foreclosure once you receive the notice of default. This happens 120 days after missed payments. They record it and they mail it to you, and that's the formal start of the process. If you're behind on your mortgage right now, you're not alone. Thousands of Washington State owners go through this every year, and there's still going to be steps you can take to regain control throughout this process. The most important thing you can do is understand the timeline, because that's what really matters for you to understand where your rights are within the process to regain control of your property. All right, here's where things get real. This is the part that confuses almost everyone. The actual timeline of foreclosure in Washington State. So let's break that down. Step one, you've missed your payment. Once you miss your first payment, your lender will start calling you and sending you notices. You'll receive a late payment, and the credit bureau will be notified of your late payment. They are required to try and contact you to discuss the options you have to get back on track. If you haven't caught up after about 3 months, you'll receive a notice of default. This is the official start of the foreclosure process. Step 3, 30 days later, you'll receive a notice of trustee sale. If the default is not cured from your end at that point, a trustee can record and mail this notice of trustee sale to you. That document includes your auction date, which must be at least 120 days out. So from your first missed payment to the auction date, you'll usually work with about 6 months. Here's a key detail. You can stop the sale and reinstate your loan at any time up until about a week or 2 weeks prior to the auction. That's where you've exhausted your options and you really need to make a quick move, usually with a cash option. Once you enter 1 to 2 weeks prior to the auction date, the trustee isn't legally required to accept your payment. So if you're in that window right now, you have to make a quick move to make sure that you can gain back your property before foreclosure. Later in this video, we'll show you exactly what happens if you do nothing during this timeline. But first, let's talk about what you can do before things get ever to that point. When you get the first notice, it's easy to panic, but the truth is you still have options. Option 1, loan modification or forbearance. You can reach out to your lender and you can request new terms, maybe a lower payment or a temporary pause. They'll actually ask you for income verification, a hardship letter, and some financial documents. Option 2, you can refinance. If your credit hasn't taken too much of a hit at this point, you might qualify for a refinance that pays off the old loan and gives you a fresh start with a new loan. Option 3, sell on the open market. If you got equity in the property, you can list your home with a broker and you can get more money for your property. But it takes time, showings, and repairs necessary. Option 4 is you can sell off market. Typically, this is going to be to an investor. These are the kind of people who are going to move fast with complete privacy and peace of mind. It's going to allow you to close quickly as is, stop the clock, and protect your credit from getting damaged deeper. Keep in mind, guys, the earlier you take action, the more options you have. And if you're watching this as an investor or a broker, that's the biggest lesson you can share to anyone facing foreclosure. Silence kills all options. Communication saves them. Coming up, we'll break down what actually happens behind the scenes when someone applies for a loan modification or a refinance, why sometimes it works and why sometimes it doesn't. You've probably heard someone say, just go get a loan modification, or why don't you just refinance? Those can all be good options, but they're not always the easy fix that people expect. So let's break that down. Loan modification. This is when you ask your lender to change the terms of the existing loan, maybe lower the payments, extend the term, or reduce your interest rate. The pros, it can help you stay in your home without selling, and sometimes lenders will even roll missed payments into the new balance. The cons, it's a long and document-heavy process. You'll need proof of income, a hardship letter, a full financial disclosure. It can take 30 to 90 days, sometimes more, and there's no guarantee of approval. If your foreclosure sale date is already set, that waiting period can be risky. Refinancing. This means replacing your current mortgage with a new one, ideally at a better terms. The pros, you get a clean slate, and if your home's value has gone up, you might even tap into some of your equity. The cons, it usually requires good credit, stable income, and for most people already in default, those numbers don't usually line up, which means qualifying can be very difficult. So while both options can work, they depend on time, credit, and lender cooperation. And that combination doesn't always line up for everyone. That's why for some homeowners, especially those with limited time or mounting stress, selling early can actually protect what they've built. Not because they're giving up, but because they're choosing certainty over chaos. And that's where an off-market sale can make sense. When the goal is to stop the foreclosure process, avoid further credit damage, and move forward on your own terms. Selling off market isn't giving up. It's choosing to control the outcome. When you sell directly to a buyer, there's no agents, no commissions, no repairs. You can close in as little as 2 weeks. That speed can stop the foreclosure process, specifically in that hot seat window of that 14 days before the auction date, and save your credit from major hits. You're also going to avoid public listings, showings, open houses, signs in front of your yard, and all the stress of people coming in and out of your home when you're already under all this pressure. At Destiny Home Buyers, we've helped people in this exact situation. People who just wanted a simple, private, and fair way to move on without feeling embarrassed or trapped. And just to be fully transparent, yes, we are investors and we do look for off-market deals. But our goal isn't to pressure anyone. We look for win-win situations where selling off-market truly makes sense and where we can actually step in and help people who feel like they're lost in this process and don't have any options. But what happens if you don't do anything at all? That's what most people are afraid to ask. And that's exactly what we'll cover next. Here's the truth. If you ignore the notices and all the calls, the process doesn't stop. Once the auction date arrives, the trustee will sell the property to the highest bidder or back to the bank if no one bids high enough. The trustee then records a trustee's deed, which officially transfers ownership out of your name. If you're still living in the home, you'll eventually receive an eviction notice, usually giving you a few days to move out and take all your items. If you don't, a sheriff will complete the lockout, and then on top of that, foreclosure will hit your credit for up to 7 years. It affects everything from renting to applying for future loans. It's painful, but it's not the end. There's still a way to move forward even after foreclosure. Before we get there, we'll show you exactly what it looks like when people take action early. Here's an example, for instance. We had a seller that was entering into that hot seat window of the 14 days before auction. We got him on the phone. He was aware he was going into foreclosure and he knew some of his options, but it was a misunderstanding of how to apply those options and how to have taken action earlier in the process. And when I was on the phone with him, we were talking to him about the timeline that, hey, you're just about to enter into the 2-week window. And once we got to a point where he admitted that, hey, I'm going to apply tomorrow, we notified him that he's at the point in the timeline where that's actually not an option he has. None of that he could be approved for. He just assumed because the option was out there that it was going to be a guarantee that he was going to get it. And then we educated him and let him know that he was within that 14-day window. So the good news was we were ready to move forward. He did have some equity, so he was able to walk away with a little bit of money. And we were able to immediately contact that trustee lawyer to make sure that the auction was paused. And then we closed before the auction date with a hard money loan in cash. So it stopped the process, got him money, and helped him understand that he was about to lose his home. If you've already gone through foreclosure, don't tune out now. This is the part where most people never hear about, and it's where you can rebuild. You can start improving your credit immediately by setting up secured credit cards, paying rent on time, and keeping your debt as low as possible. And depending on the type of loan, you can actually buy again sooner than you might think. For FHA loans, it's typically 3 years. For VA loans, it's about 2 years. And for conventional loans, it's about 7 years. We've seen people buy again in as little as 3 years, sometimes sooner, because they took control of their situation and rebuilt intentionally. So if you're in this position, know this: foreclosure doesn't define you. It's a chapter, not a story. If you're in Washington State and you're not sure what the next step should be, reach out to us. Even if you're not planning to sell and that's not the answer, we'll help you understand the options you have available. The earlier you act, the more power you have in the outcome. Foreclosure is stressful, but knowledge gives you control. If this video helped you, like and subscribe, share it with someone who needs to see this, or save it for later, because these steps could make the difference between you losing your home or keeping your equity. We are Destiny Home Buyers, and we help Washington State homeowners navigate these tough situations with honesty, transparency, and with care. And remember, no matter where you are in this process, we can always help you move forward. Like and subscribe.